Move that trailer one more foot, Clay, and I'll put the loader bucket through your windshield. That was the first thing Tessa Rourke ever said to me. No, hello. No, please. No trembling excuse for the 6 weeks her husband had dodged my calls, while the baler I sold him sat unpaid behind their machine shed. Only that. Her old yellow loader blocked my flatbed in the middle of the yard. Bucket dropped low, engine coughing black smoke into the cold morning air. Behind her, the baler sat half hidden between dusty hay wagons, close enough to see and impossible to reach. I had chains in my truck bed, a signed contract on the passenger seat, and one final warning from my own lender ringing in my head. Bring back the machine, or bring back the money. I had come to take back what was mine. Tessa climbed down from the loader in work jeans and mud-caked boots, carrying a yellow farm ledger under one arm like it was the only thing on that property still telling the truth. If you take it today, she said, this farm dies before Friday. That sounds like Dale's problem. No, she said, Dale is the problem. That stopped me. From the porch, her husband's voice drifted out smooth, lazy, and just loud enough for the yard to hear. Tessa, honey, don't start acting unstable in front of the man. You're embarrassing yourself again. Her face did not change, but her fingers tightened around the ledger until the cover bent. I should have loaded the baler and left. Instead, she opened the book to a page circled in red, shoved it against my chest, and said, 30 days, written terms, signed by you, hidden by him. The paper touched my shirt before I understood the words. Then Dale stopped smiling. That was when I realized I had not come to a farm to collect a debt. I had driven into the middle of a marriage built on missing money, public lies, and one woman who was done letting her husband write her story. The page was not part of her ledger. It was folded into it, creased twice, with my company name across the top and my signature at the bottom. I knew the form. 2 weeks earlier, Dale had come to my shop near closing, hat in both hands, saying he needed one last chance before I sent the flatbed. I had offered him a written 30-day cure plan, not because I trusted him, because repossessing a baler in hay season meant I might get my machine back and still lose money. Dale had taken the paper, smiled like we were old friends, and said his wife would never agree. Now Tessa stood in front of me with that same paper. Where did you get this? I asked. In the desk drawer under 3 feed bills. Dale came off the porch then, slow enough to look calm, fast enough to make sure he arrived before she said more. Clay, he said, you know how paperwork gets around. She found something old and decided to make a scene. Tessa turned one page in the ledger. It was dated 16 days ago. Old enough, Dale said. No one laughed. My truck idled with the door still open, heat leaking into the morning. Tessa's handwriting was tight and small, the kind made by someone who had learned to fit bad news into narrow spaces. There were acres listed by field, buyer names, cut dates, fuel estimates, auction items, and a payment schedule with my name written first. Not at the bottom. At the top. You did this? I asked. Every number I could get to. Dale made a small sound behind her. She likes feeling important. Tessa closed the ledger with one hand. I waited for her to snap at him. She didn't. She swallowed it. Not because she agreed. Because swallowing him had become a habit. That was the first thing about her that made me angry. Still, the contract on my passenger seat had my lender's number clipped to it. My own equipment note was late. If I drove away without the baler, I was not being noble. I was gambling with money I did not have. I can't work off another man's lie, I said. Then don't. Tessa stepped closer. Work off mine. Dale laughed once. Hear that? Now she's offering herself as collateral. My hand tightened around the folder. Tessa's face went pale, but her voice stayed level. I'm offering a plan. You're making this ugly, Dale said. No, she answered. I'm making it written. The words landed in the yard and stayed there. I opened the ledger again because I needed something to do with my hands. Page 5 had a list of equipment to sell. An old grain drill, a spare feed trailer, 2 gates, and a stock tank. Page 6 had a hay buyer named Larkin circled twice. Delivery window, Friday. Beneath that, in darker ink, she had written, Do not let Dale change the account. I read that line twice. Dale saw me read it. His voice dropped. Clay, that is family business. Tessa's shoulders locked, and the open truck door tapped once in the wind. What account? I asked. Tessa looked at Dale then. He looked away first. My first payment comes from the Larkin hay sale, I said. If we get the baler through the week, Tessa said. If we cut the north field before rain. If the buyer doesn't get scared off. If he doesn't reroute it before the check clears. Dale threw his hands up. Listen to her. This is what I deal with. Everything is a conspiracy. Tessa pulled out a bank receipt, folded so many times the paper had softened at the seams. This was last month, she said. Dale stepped toward her. Don't. The word came out too sharp. There it was. A crack in the easy smile. She did not hand me the receipt. Not yet. She held it between two fingers and looked at me like the next choice belonged to both of us, but for different reasons. I could take the Baler and protect myself. Or I could give her 30 days and risk becoming exactly what my lender already thought I was. A man too easy to talk out of what he was owed. What happens if I say no? I asked. Tessa looked past me at the machine shed. Then you take your machine, she said. Dale tells town I lost the farm because I panicked. The bank believes him because his name is louder. Larkin buys hay from someone else. You get a Baler that still needs repairs. And I spend the next year listening to people say I should have been easier to help. Dale smiled again, but it came late. Tessa, he said softly, you're tired. She looked at him, and something in her expression finally moved. Not anger, something older. I'm tired because I kept carrying the part of this marriage you kept selling. The loader engine coughed hard, then steadied. I walked back to my truck and took out a blank contract sheet. Dale's smile vanished completely. Clay, he said. Don't let her drag you into this. I laid the paper on the hood of my truck. I'm already in it, I said. My name is on the debt. Tessa stood on the other side of the hood, ledger open, one gloved hand, holding the pages against the wind. 30 days, I said. First payment from the Larkin sale. No routing changes without your signature and mine. I inspect the Baler before it runs. If one payment misses, I take the machine without another argument. Tessa nodded once. Dale stepped closer. It's my farm. For the first time that morning, Tessa smiled. It was small, tired, and not kind. Then tell him where the hay money went. Dale said nothing. The pen in my hand suddenly felt heavier than the chains in my truck bed. The pen did not move for a few seconds. Dale had been smiling all morning like the yard belonged to him, like the debt belonged to me, like Tessa's anger was just weather that would pass if nobody took it seriously. But when she asked where the hay money had gone, he looked at the gravel. That was answer enough. I wrote the terms anyway. 30 days. First payment from the Larkin hay sale. No payment changes without Tessa's signature and mine. Baler inspected before use. Missed payment meant immediate repossession, no more warnings. Tessa signed first. Her hands stayed steady. Dale refused to touch the paper. It's not valid without me, he said. It's valid with the person offering the payment plan, I said. His eyes narrowed. You always let women talk you into bad business? That one found a place under my ribs. Dale did not know me, but men like him had a way of throwing a hook where the scar already was. I folded one copy into my folder, one into Tessa's ledger, and one under the windshield clip while the ink dried in the cold. I'll be here at 6 tomorrow, I said. Tessa nodded. Dale laughed softly. He won't be. Men with sense don't come back after they've had time to think. I climbed into my truck without answering. That was an old habit of mine, silence. I used to think it made me dignified. Most of the time it just gave louder people a clean page to write on. I learned that from my father's shop. Mercer equipment had never been big, but it had been ours. My father believed a handshake still meant something if you gave people enough chances to prove it. He fixed machines before deposits cleared. He loaned parts to neighbors who promised to pay after harvest. By the time he got sick, the shop was full of good men's promises and not enough cash. I told myself I would not become him. Then I became the other thing. Harder, quicker with paperwork, less patient when somebody said they were trying. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with Tessa's copy of the plan beside my own overdue notice. 30 days was not mercy. It was exposure. If Tessa failed, everyone would say I had been fooled again. If I took the Baler, the farm might fail before anyone learned. Dale had hollowed it out from the inside. At 5:41 the next morning, my service truck rolled through the Rourke gate with no flatbed behind it. Tessa was already by the machine shed. She had the ledger on the hood of an old pickup, a grease gun in one hand, and a thermos set beside a pile of worn belts. The loader was parked off to the side now. Bucket lowered like a dog finally told to sit. No trailer, she said. Don't make me wish I brought one. I won't. She said it without softness, which helped. Pity would have made me leave. We started with the Baler. The machine was worse than it had looked from the yard. One pickup tooth was missing, two were bent. The chain had slack in it, the twine knife was dull, and one bearing had the dry rasp of trouble waiting for heat. Tessa listened while I named each problem. She did not flinch. She wrote it down. "How much?" she asked. "Parts or truth?" Her mouth almost moved into a smile. "Start with parts." I gave her the number. She shut her eyes for one breath, opened them, and crossed something out in the ledger. "What was that?" "New gate." "You need that gate?" "I need the Baler more." That was how the morning went. Not hope. Triage. We fixed what had to hold and marked what could not be ignored past Friday. Dale came out once around 8, with a mug in his hand and clean boots on his feet. "Looks expensive," he said. Tessa kept threading twine through the guide. "It is." He looked at me. "See?" She hears one number and starts cutting from the wrong place. "She cut a gate," I said, "not the bearing." Dale's smile thinned. Tessa's hand paused on the twine, just long enough for me to notice. Nobody had said she made the right call in a long time. By 10, we moved to the north field. The hay stood high enough to brush the tractor steps, pale green under a sky that looked too clear to trust. Tessa climbed into the tractor, checked the gauges, tapped the fuel glass, listened to the idle, then leaned out. "Lower strip stays wet," she called. "Don't let me cut too close to the wash." "You telling me, or reminding yourself?" "Both." I followed in the service truck along the field road, stopping twice to check the cut. She drove carefully, not slow, not scared, just aware. The tractor did not boss her around. She listened to it. Around noon, my phone buzzed against the dashboard. It was my lender. He let it ring. Tessa saw the screen. "You can take that. It can wait." "No," she said, shutting down the tractor. "It probably can't." I answered beside the truck, facing away from her in the field. "I have a signed cure plan and first payment scheduled from a verified hay sale." He wanted a date. I gave him Friday. He wanted assurance. I looked at the baler, then at Tessa standing beside the tractor with grease on one sleeve and dust across her cheek. "You'll have money or a machine," I said. After I hung up, she did not ask how bad it was. She handed me half a sandwich wrapped in wax paper. "I don't need your lunch." "I know," she said. "Eat it anyway. People make dumb decisions when they're hungry." I almost handed it back. Then my stomach answered for me. We ate on the tailgate without talking much. Across the yard, Dale's truck was gone. The farmhouse windows stayed blank. Tessa opened the ledger on her knee and added the lender deadline under my payment line. "You don't have to write my problem in your book," I said. "It's already in the field." I looked at her. She capped the pen. "If I miss that payment, you don't just lose patience, you lose room." It was such a plain way to say it that I had no defense ready. Most people saw the truck, the chains, the contract, and decided I was the pressure. Tessa had looked once and seen the pressure behind me. That did not make me trust her, but it made me quieter. By late afternoon, the first strip was down. Not enough. Not close, but down. Tessa stood at the edge of the field, one hand on the fender, watching the hay lie in clean rows behind her. "Dale told people I never finish what I start," she said. I kept my eyes on the field. "Do you?" She gave me a sharp look. It was a fair one. Then she looked back at the rows. "I finished plenty." I just let him stand closer to the credit. A pickup slowed on the county road. Chuck Harlan from the feed store leaned out the window, eyes moving from Tessa to me to the cut hay. "Busy place today," he called. Tessa closed the ledger. Chuck grinned like he had found something cheaper than feed to sell. "Dale know you two are running things now?" The question hung over the field longer than his truck did. Tessa said nothing until the dust settled. Then she opened the ledger again and wrote down the time we finished the north strip. Not Chuck's words, not Dale's absence. The work. I understood then that her old wound was not that people failed to see her. It was that they saw the work, took the benefit, and still let someone else name it. By Wednesday afternoon, the north field was down. The lower strip had dried better than expected, and the baler was making the kind of sound a man could live with. It was not good. Good was a luxury we did not have. This was acceptable, which on the Rourke farm seemed to count as a blessing. Tessa drove the tractor while I rode the service road, stopping every few passes to check the bales. The first 6 came out soft on one side. I adjusted the tension, cursed the knotter, and pulled hay from places hay had no business being. Tessa killed the tractor and climbed down. How bad? Bad enough to make me nervous. Not bad enough to quit. Those are different. In farming? Barely. She took that in without a smile and wrote it in the ledger. Not her holding. Tension adjusted. First clean bales after 2:40 p.m. She wrote time like it could defend her later. The yellow book had started the week as a plan. By then, it was becoming a witness. Every hour, every part, every gallon of fuel, every decision Dale had not made went into those pages in Tessa's tight handwriting. I did not like how much I respected that. Respect made men careless in a different way than pity did. Around 4, my phone buzzed with a number I did not know. I almost ignored it because unknown numbers had been nothing but bad news for 6 months. Tessa saw me reach for it. Could be Larkin, she said. You give him my number? I gave him the number of the man whose machine is doing the work. There was a clean edge in her voice, but not an apology. I answered. Clay Mercer? Yes. This is Paul Larkin. I'm supposed to be taking the first load from Rourke on Friday. Tessa stopped writing. I put the call on speaker and set the phone on the fender. Mr. Larkin, I said. We're still on schedule if the weather holds. That's what Mrs. Rourke told me. He paused. Paper moved on his end. I'm calling because I received a revised payment instruction this morning. Tessa's pen rolled off the ledger and dropped into the grass. I bent to pick it up. Revised how? I asked. Different routing number. Same farm name listed, but different account ending. Came from Dale's email. Tessa did not touch the pen when I held it out. The Baler ticked as it cooled behind us. Do not release payment to that account, she said. Her voice was calm enough that it scared me a little. Larkin cleared his throat. Mrs. Rourke, I don't want to get in the middle of a household issue. This is not a household issue, she said. This is a farm sale. The hay is being cut under a written payment plan, and the operating account is listed in the original agreement. I have the original agreement here, Larkin said. But Dale said you were under stress, and he was simplifying things. Tessa shut her eyes, only for one breath. When she opened them, something in her had hardened into place. Mr. Larkin, she said. Did he use the word unstable? The other end went quiet. My hand closed around the phone. Larkin's answer came slower. He said you were overwhelmed. That was not my question. A truck passed on the county road, throwing dust over the ditch. Yes, Larkin said. He used that word. Tessa nodded once, not to him, to herself. Thank you, she said. Please, forward that email to Clay and to me. Hold any payment changes until we deliver in person. I can do that. And Mr. Larkin? Yes? If Dale calls again, tell him all changes require my signature. Another pause. All right. The call ended. No one moved for a few seconds. Then Tessa picked up her pen, wiped dirt from the tip with her thumb, and opened the ledger to a clean page. What are you doing? I asked, writing down what he said. You heard him. That's not the same as having it written. She was right. A minute later, my phone buzzed again. Larkin's forwarded email came through with the subject line, Updated payment instructions, Rourke hay delivery. The message was short. Clay, Tessa has been overwhelmed and unstable around the farm accounts lately. To avoid confusion, send Friday's hay payment to the updated account below. I'll handle it. Dale. Below that sat the routing number and account digits. Tessa copied the digits into the ledger. Her hand stayed controlled until she reached the word unstable. The pen pressed so hard through the paper that it left a groove on the next page. I had heard men call women unstable before, usually when the woman had started keeping records. That account, I said. Do you recognize it? She did not answer right away. It's his equipment account. He has an equipment account? He had one. She folded the printed email after I sent it to her phone. Closed, I thought, or empty. I don't know anymore. You don't know? Her eyes came up sharp. No, Clay. I don't know every hole he dug. I just know which ones I fell into. The anger in her voice was not aimed cleanly at me. I stepped back and let her have the space. She put the email printout inside the ledger, behind the page with my payment schedule. Then she went to the tractor, climbed into the seat, and reached for the key. We're done for today, I said. No, we're not. The Baler needs another check before we push it. You said it was holding. Holding isn't the same as ready, and losing daylight isn't the same as being careful. She turned the key. The tractor coughed awake. I put one boot on the step and held the cab rail, not blocking her, just close enough to make her hear me. If you run angry, you miss things. She stared past me through the windshield. The field waited. The hay waited. The Friday buyer waited. Dale's email sat in her ledger like a match under dry straw. "I am not angry," she said. "You're worse. You're trying not to be." That got through. Her fingers loosened on the throttle. The engine idled down. For a long moment, all we had was machine noise and the smell of cut hay. Then she reached into the pocket of her shirt and pulled out the bank receipt she had shown me the first morning but never handed over. She pressed it against the steering wheel. "This was from last month," she said. "Cattle deposit. I thought it went to the feed bill. I took the receipt. The deposit had been transferred out less than 2 hours after it cleared. Same account ending as the email." Tessa watched my face and understood before I spoke. "He used the same account," I said. She nodded. "Did you know when you made the plan?" I suspected. "That's not the same." "No," she said, "it isn't." There it was. The first real cut between us. Not romance. Not betrayal. Something more useful and more painful. A fact. She had not told me everything. I handed the receipt back. "You should have said this before I signed." "I know." No defense. No excuse. Just 2 words. Standing there naked between the tractor and the field. That made it harder to stay angry. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Dale. "You need to be careful with her. She twists things when she panics." Below it came a second message. "Don't let her put your name on something you'll regret." Tessa read them over my shoulder. Her face did not break, but the receipt shook once in her hand. Then a third message arrived. "And if she shows you that bank paper, ask her why she signed the transfer form." The text sat on my phone like a tool left too close to the edge of a bench. Tessa read it twice. Her face did not break. Instead, she went still in the tractor seat, one hand on the wheel, the old receipt folded between 2 fingers. "What transfer form?" I asked. She shut the tractor off. "I signed something last winter." "What kind of something?" "A temporary authorization." Dale said a cattle buyer had the wrong account on file, and the bank needed both signatures to fix it. "And did they?" She stared at the rows of hay drying under the hard blue sky. "I don't know." That answer did more damage than an excuse. Larkin's email was in my inbox. Dale's text was on my screen. The receipt was in her hand. The first load was supposed to move in less than 48 hours. "We go to the bank," I said. "No." "No?" She climbed down with the ledger against her side. "Not with you walking in beside me looking ready to break his jaw." "I'm not. You're holding the phone like it owes you money." I loosened my grip. "We need the records," I said. "We do," she answered. "But if I walk in there with you after Dale sent those messages, he'll make the bank visit about you." The wind moved through the cut field. Tessa slid the receipt into the back pocket of the ledger. He already started. We went anyway. There was no clean road left. County Ag Bank sat between a pharmacy and a tax office, with 2 pickups parked crooked near the entrance. I parked at the far end. Tessa was out before I killed the engine. "Let me talk first," she said. "I know." "No, Clay. If you defend me too fast, he gets to call it proof." That was the trap. Doing the decent thing could make her look guilty. Inside, the lobby was busier than it should have been. A teller counted cash. An older man in seed company suspenders filled out a deposit slip. Nora Bell, who Tessa later told me had once been her closest friend, stood by the coffee station. Chuck Harlan leaned against the brochure rack like he had come for gossip, not banking. Dale stood near the manager's door with his cap in both hands, looking tired in a way that asked witnesses to feel sorry for him. When Tessa walked in, his shoulders sagged. "A performance." "Tessa," he said softly, "I asked you not to do this here." Nora turned. Chuck's mouth twitched. Tessa walked to the counter and laid the yellow ledger flat. "I need copies of all transfer authorizations connected to the Rourke Farm operating account from the past 12 months, she said. "And I need recent payment. Change request flagged until review." The teller glanced at Dale. That small glance hurt more than it should have. Dale gave her a tired smile. "You see what I mean, Karen? This is what I've been dealing with." Tessa kept both hands on the ledger. "This is an account request." "It's a scene," he said. Chuck chuckled under his breath. My foot shifted. Tessa's elbow moved back half an inch, almost touching my sleeve. "Stay back." Karen picked up the phone. "I'll ask Elaine to come out." Dale stepped closer to the counter. "Before everyone gets dragged into this, my wife has been under strain." "There it is," Tessa said. He ignored her. "She's been overwhelmed, unstable with the accounts, And now Mr. Mercer is telling her what to think because he wants to get paid. Unstable. The word landed in the lobby and stayed there. Nora's cup stopped halfway to her mouth. The man in suspenders pretended to keep writing, but his pen no longer moved. Clay Mercer, debt collector, standing beside another man's wife while her husband called her unstable. Dale could not have painted it better. My jaw locked. Tessa opened the ledger. Dale pulled a folded paper from his jacket and laid it on the counter. Ask her about this. A transfer authorization. Tessa's signature sat at the bottom. Not forged. Here's. The lobby leaned toward it. Tessa's hand went to the counter edge, but she did not pick it up. Tell them what you told me when I signed it, she said. Dale gave a sad little laugh. Honey, you sign documents, and then months later decide they mean something else. Elaine Porter, the bank manager, came out before Tessa could answer. Sharp glasses, silver hair pinned back, a face that did not enjoy being used as a stage. What is going on? Tessa turned to her. I need the transfer history behind that authorization. Dale lifted both hands. And I need someone to recognize that my wife is being influenced by a man with a financial interest in frightening her. There was the second word. Influenced. Not helped. Not accompanied. Influenced. Elaine's eyes moved to me. Mr. Mercer, are you a signer on this account? No. Then I need you to step back from the counter. Dale relaxed by a fraction. He had known that would happen. Tessa saw it too. Her mouth opened once, then closed. If she defended my presence, Dale would call it attachment. If she told me to leave, he would call it proof I had no place there. So she stood alone. I stepped back. It felt like betrayal, even though it was right. Chuck shifted beside the rack. Awful messy way to run a farm, Nora whispered. Tess, is it true you signed it? Tessa's fingers flattened on the ledger cover until the corner bent. Elaine read the transfer form. Mrs. Rourke, this authorization appears to allow transfers into the equipment account listed here. I signed it because Dale said a cattle buyer needed correction. Dale sighed. That is not what happened. Then show the matching cattle payment, Tessa said. His smile came late. A small thing. Too small for the lobby. But I saw it. Elaine noticed too. She looked at Dale. Do you have documentation tying this authorization to a specific cattle payment? Dale rubbed the brim of his cap. I'd have to look. Tessa let out one short breath. Not relief. Something sharper. Dale turned on her. This is why people worry about you. You get emotional, embarrass yourself, and make everyone else clean up the damage. Nora looked away. That was the public wound, not Dale's words. Nora believing enough of them to look away. Elaine folded the transfer form and set it beside the ledger. Until this is reviewed, I'm placing a temporary hold on any disputed incoming farm sale payments connected to these instructions. Friday's money, my first payment, the feed bill, the repair parts. All of it paused behind one old signature. Dale leaned close enough for only Tessa and me to hear. You should have let me handle this at home. Tessa picked up her ledger. For a second, I thought she might leave. Instead, she turned to Nora. I did sign it, she said, but not for what he did with it. Nora did not answer. Nobody did. Tessa walked past me toward the door with the ledger against her chest, and every eye in the bank following her like she had already been convicted. Outside, she stopped beside my truck, but did not get in. The town kept moving around us. Cars passed. A bell rang over the pharmacy door. Somewhere down the block, someone laughed at something that had nothing to do with us. Tessa opened the ledger to the payment page and drew one clean line under Friday's date. Not crossed out. Underlined. Now, she said, her voice rough for the first time all day. We have to deliver hay no one is sure we're allowed to get paid for. Tessa did not speak on the drive back. She sat with the ledger on her lap, one hand flat over the bent cover like she was keeping it from opening by itself. The bank receipt stayed tucked inside. The transfer form had been copied and folded into a plain envelope Elaine Porter gave her before we left. I wanted to ask about the signature. I wanted not to. Both things sat in my throat until we reached the Rourke gate. Dale's truck was not there. Tessa noticed before I did. Her hand tightened on the ledger, then loosened. Good, she said. It did not sound like good. Clouds had moved in from the west, low and bruised, dragging a hard wind across the cut hay. We had no room for rain, no room for another delay, and no room left for any version of the truth that arrived late. I pulled beside the machine shed. We need to check the baler before tomorrow, I said. I know. She got out with the ledger. I grabbed my toolbox and a bottle of water from behind the seat. Inside the shed, the air was cooler and smelled of twine, old diesel, and damp wood. One strip of light came through a crack in the siding and fell across the baler like a warning line. Tessa set the ledger on the workbench. A smear of mud crossed the cover from her thumb. She stared at it, then rubbed at the spot with her sleeve. "It won't come off that way," I said. She stopped. I handed her a clean shop rag. She took it anyway. "Thank you." I opened the baler panel and checked the chain. "You should tell me now." She wiped the ledger once, slowly. "About the form. About whatever Dale thinks I'll regret." The rag went still in her hand. "I signed it," she said. "I know." "No. You know my name is on it. That is not the same." I set the wrench down. Tessa opened the envelope and placed the transfer copy on the workbench between us. Her signature sat at the bottom in blue ink. Careful. Deliberate. The kind of signature a person makes when she has been told the wrong thing is necessary. "Last winter, Dale told me the cattle buyer sent payment to the wrong place twice," she said. "He said the feed store was threatening to cut us off. He said the bank needed a temporary authorization so he could correct incoming payments if I was in the field." Did you believe him? I wanted to. That answer was worse than yes. She folded the rag into a square, then unfolded it again. I saw the first transfer 2 weeks later. It went into the equipment account. He told me he had to cover an overdue repair bill before the bank saw it. He said if I made noise, they would pull the operating line. And you let it stand. Her chin lifted, but there was no defense in it. Yes. Then you let me sign a 30-day cure plan without telling me that account existed. She swallowed. I found your plan 3 days before you came. My hand closed over the edge of the baler panel. 3 days. Not 16 hours. Not one panicked morning with a loader blocking my trailer. 3 days. You had my name in that ledger before I ever drove through the gate. Yes. The word landed clean. No excuse wrapped around it. I picked up the wrench, then set it down again. The sound was too hard in the shed. That was not your call to make. I know. No, Tessa. I need you to hear me. Dale lied to me because it served him. You held back the truth because you thought you needed a better chance. Those are not the same thing, but they both put my name on a risk I did not understand. Her eyes lowered to the transfer form. I know, she said again. And this time, the words sounded heavier. For one ugly second, I saw my father's shop full of unpaid promises and my lender's number glowing in my mind. Maybe Dale is right about one thing, I said. Tessa went still. Maybe I am letting myself get pulled into something I do not understand. Her face changed into the careful emptiness of a woman who had heard a room decide against her before the evidence arrived. I hated that I had put that look there. The rain began to hit the shed roof. Tessa reached into the ledger and pulled out the page with my payment line. Beneath it, in smaller writing, she had added my lender's deadline from the day before. You asked me why I wrote your problem in my book, she said. This is why. I had already made your problem bigger before I told you. The rain thickened. I went back to the baler because work was the only honest thing I could touch. A bad bearing did not care who lied. A loose chain did not care who was ashamed. Hand me the half-inch, I said. She did. The wrench touched my palm before I asked twice. We worked that way for a few minutes. No comfort. No forgiveness. Just metal, rain, and truth. Then she said, I didn't lie because I wanted to hurt you. The chain clicked under my hand. I lied because I was still trying to make his mess look like a marriage. I stopped turning the wrench. There it was. Not the bank version. Not the town version. Hers. The truth did not make her innocent. It made her real. Outside, the rain pushed harder across the yard. Tessa leaned against the workbench, both hands braced behind her, face turned away from me. I thought if I could get through one more month, one more sale, one more bill, then maybe I could say it wasn't as bad as it looked. That ever work? No. A tired laugh left her, too small to be humor. It just taught him I would keep sanding the edges off what he did. I tightened the last bolt and closed the panel. You can't sand this one. I know. And I can't be the man standing close enough for him to turn into another story. She turned then. The light through the siding cut across her face, catching the dust on her cheek, the damp line of hair near her temple, the place where exhaustion had made her look younger and older at the same time. Her hand moved toward the grease on my wrist. Not all the way. Just enough. I wanted to let it. Instead, I stepped back and picked up the rag. Her hand stopped in the air. then lowered. That's what he meant, she said quietly. At the bank, that if you step back, I stand alone. No. I wiped the grease from my wrist and set the rag beside the ledger. If I step in the wrong way, he gets to say you never stood at all. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were wet, but steady. I hate that he still gets a vote in the shape of this. He doesn't get the final one. The rain hammered the roof now. The cut hay outside was taking water we could not afford. Friday's payment was on hold. My lender was waiting. Tessa's signature had become Dale's favorite weapon. None of that had changed. I picked up the transfer form and tapped it once against the workbench. Tomorrow, we deliver what we can. Then you ask Elaine for the full transfer history. Not to defend me, not to convince Nora. For you. Tessa nodded. And one more thing. She waited. If anything ever happens between us, it cannot start as another thing he gets to twist. Her mouth trembled once, before she controlled it. Not while my name is still tied to his, she said. Not while you are still bleeding from what he did. She folded the transfer copy and slid it back into the envelope. Then she opened the ledger to a clean page and wrote one sentence at the top. Tell Clay first. The words were small, but she underlined them twice. The rain stopped sometime before dawn. It left the farm smelling washed and punished. By 6, the cut hay was heavy at the edges. The lane had gone soft near the ditch, and Tessa stood in the north field with her boots sunk half an inch into mud, turning a handful of hay over in her palm. Not ruined, she said. I squeezed a stem between my fingers. Not dry either. That is not the same thing. No, but Larkin won't take wet bales. She nodded and dropped the hay. Then we wait for sun and lose half a day. Half a day did not sound like much, unless every hour already had a price tag. My lender called while we were walking back to the yard. I answered this time. Tessa kept moving, but slower. Close enough to hear my side. No, the payment hasn't cleared yet. It's held by the bank pending account review. The man on the other end did not want reasons. He wanted money, or collateral. Friday, I said. If I don't have one or the other by 4, I'll bring the Baler in. When I hung up, Tessa did not apologize. That helped. Instead, she said, write the exact time down. She opened the ledger and made a new heading. Cost. Under it, she wrote, Clay deadline Friday, 4 p.m. Bankhold. Attorney. Fuel. Feed bill. My name sat at the top of the list, and I hated how much it belonged there. The next call came from Elaine Porter at the bank. Tessa put it on speaker and set the phone on the hood of the pickup. Mrs. Rourke, Elaine said. The incoming hay payment will remain on hold until the disputed authorization is reviewed. I also received notice this morning from Dale, claiming undue influence and requesting no operating account changes without joint approval. Tessa's hand flattened beside the phone. He can't use my signature to move money and then use my objection to freeze it. He can request review, Elaine said. That doesn't mean he wins, but I recommend you speak to an attorney before submitting a written statement. After the call, Tessa stared at the cost list. Then she added one more line. Time. That is the one we cannot buy back, she said. The feed store proved it by noon. Chuck Harlan refused to put twine and hydraulic fluid on the Rourke account. He did not even pretend to check. Dale called ahead. He said from behind the counter. No charges unless he approves them. Tessa stood with 2 rolls of twine in her arms. They're for the Larkin hay. Then Dale can approve it. She set the twine on the counter, carefully. I took out my wallet. No, she said, I need the Baler running. And I need to not become another unpaid line in your shop. You already are. The words came out sharper than I meant. Tessa's face closed. Chuck watched us like he had been handed free entertainment. I put my wallet away and placed my business card on the counter instead. Mercer Equipment will purchase the twine and fluid. Invoice it to the Rourke job file. Payment due only from released farm proceeds or collateral sale. Written terms. Tessa looked at me, still hurt, still listening. That still puts you at risk, she said. Less than pretending we don't need the parts. Chuck snorted. Sounds complicated. That's why I wrote it down. He stopped smiling. By the time we returned, Dale had found a cleaner way to hurt the day. A new padlock hung from the farm diesel tank. A folded note was taped above it. No fuel used for unauthorized work. D. Tessa photographed the lock, the note, and the tank gauge before she touched anything. Can I cut it? She asked. Practically, yes. Legally, he'll use it. She shut her eyes, then dialed the attorney referral Elaine had given her. The attorney told her to document the lock, keep receipts, and not alter jointly held property while the account dispute was active. When she ended the call, she opened the glove box of the old pickup and pulled out a key ring with only 2 keys on it. South Shed has 2 diesel cans, maybe 10 gallons total. That won't finish the field. No. It gets us to the next problem. We carried the cans out together. One handle was cracked. Diesel sloshed against my boot. The sky had cleared by then, sun burning off the surface moisture while the clock burned with it. By 3, the hay had dried enough to rake. By 4, the tractor was running on borrowed fumes. By 5, my shop foreman called to tell me I had missed 2 service appointments and 1 customer had taken his combine repair to Grady's. I stood behind the shed with the phone pressed to my ear, watching Tessa rake a field she might not get paid for. "Tell him I understand," I said, "and move the Wilson job to Monday if he'll let us." My foreman said something I deserved. I did not argue. When I walked back, Tessa had shut the tractor down. "You lost work. 1 job. How much?" "Enough." She climbed down. Dust crossed one cheek, and sunburn marked the edge of her collar. "Clay." "No. You don't know what I was going to say. You were going to say I should leave before this costs me more." She said nothing. "That part is my decision," I told her. "But here is the line. I will work under written terms. I will document parts, hours, fuel, and risk. I will stand as a witness to what I see. I will not move into your life like an answer." Her eyes stayed on mine. "And I will not let you use my guilt as shelter," I said. The words hurt her. They hurt me too. "I wasn't trying to," she said. "I know. Then why say it?" "Because desperate people can tell the truth and still reach for the nearest warm place." Tessa opened the ledger and wrote another line beneath the cost list. "No shelter." She crossed it out almost at once. Under it, she wrote, "No lies." "That's better," she said. Near dusk, Nora's car slowed at the end of the lane, then kept going. Tessa saw it. So did I. A few minutes later, her phone buzzed with Nora's name. Tessa let it ring until it stopped. She looked away at the bank. Tessa said, "She may be trying to come back. People like coming back after the damage has already done the work." There was nothing gentle to say to that. Nora returned 20 minutes later, and this time drove all the way up. She got out with a paper grocery bag clutched to her chest. "I brought supper," she said, "and I owe you a question." Tessa closed the ledger. "Only one?" Nora's face colored. At the bank, I should have asked Dale for proof before I looked away. Then my phone buzzed. A new email from Larkin. "Clay, Tessa, I received a second notice from Dale Rourke's attorney disputing Friday delivery authority. Unless I have clear authorization by noon tomorrow, I'll have to refuse the load." Tessa read it beside me. The color drained from her face, but the ledger stayed steady in her hand. "Noon tomorrow," she said. The practical cost had just become a clock. Noon tomorrow gave us 18 hours. That sounded possible until Tessa wrote the list. Dry the hay, get fuel, confirm delivery authority, answer the attorney notice, keep Larkin from walking, and keep my lender from sending a truck for the machine. She put every item under one heading. Before noon. Then she drew a box around it like a fence. Nora stood beside the pickup with the grocery bag still in her arms. "I can call Mr. Larkin," Nora said. "He knows my uncle. Maybe if someone local tells him." "No," Tessa said. The word came fast. Nora flinched. Tessa softened by half an inch, not more. "Dale has made this about who people believe. I can't fix that by sending more people to speak for me." Nora nodded, ashamed enough to stay quiet, and decent enough to stay anyway. We worked until dark. The field dried just enough to rake again, then enough to start baling under lights. Nora held a flashlight near the twine box while I adjusted the knotter. Tessa drove the tractor with her window open, listening for the change in pitch that meant the machine was getting hungry. By 10, we had half a load. By 11, my lender called again. I stepped behind the shed and answered. "You said Friday," I told him. "And you said payment was scheduled," he said. He was not wrong. When I came back, Tessa asked, "What did he say?" "He wants me to secure collateral if payment is uncertain." For a moment, the clean path was right there. Hook the flatbed, load the machine, and call it sane business. My father would have stayed too long. I had promised myself I would not. I took 2 steps toward my truck before I knew I had moved. Tessa saw it. So did Nora. No one stopped me. That was the worst part. I opened the truck door and looked at the empty space where the chains usually sat. I had left them at the shop by choice. At midnight, Larkin emailed again, forwarded from Dale's attorney. To all concerned parties, until marital property authority is clarified, no hay, equipment, or farm proceeds should be transferred, sold, released, or redirected under the influence of third-party creditor Clay Mercer. Attached was a statement from Dale. My wife has been emotionally unstable and unusually attached to Mr. Mercer since he began spending time at the property. I am concerned she is acting under pressure and making decisions that may damage the farm. Tessa read it once. Her face stayed steady until she reached unusually attached. Then she set the phone on the truck hood like it had become dirty. Nora covered her mouth. I didn't know he would say that, she whispered. Tessa turned toward her. What did you know? Nora's eyes filled too quickly. There it was. Ally complication, wearing a friend's face. At the bank, Nora said. After you left, Dale asked if you'd been acting different. I said you were tired. I said you didn't seem like yourself. Tessa's hand moved to the ledger but did not open it. Nora kept talking, words coming faster now. I meant because you were under so much stress. I didn't mean unstable. I didn't mean him. But he used it, Tessa said. Yes, Dale had not needed to invent every witness. He only needed to bend one sentence from someone who had once loved Tessa enough to be trusted. Nora started crying. Tessa did not comfort her. Old Tessa might have softened the moment, made Nora feel less guilty so the air could move again. This Tessa picked up the phone and forwarded the attorney letter to Elaine Porter. Then she opened the ledger and wrote. Nora said tired. Dale used unstable. Nora wiped her face. I'm sorry. I know, Tessa said. It was not forgiveness. It was receipt. At 1 a.m, the baler jammed. The pickup packed tight. The shear bolt snapped, and the field went quiet except for the tractor engine idling uselessly. Tessa climbed down too fast and slipped in the damp grass. I caught her by the elbow. She pulled away, not angry at me, angry at needing a hand. I'm fine. You're limping. I said I'm fine. You're also lying badly. That made Nora give one wet, surprised laugh. Tessa glared at both of us, then sat on the tractor step and checked her ankle with both hands. Not broken, twisted enough to hurt. I cleared the jam while she held the flashlight. Her light shook once, then steadied. At 2, my lender texted, final deadline remains Friday. If payment is uncertain, secure collateral immediately. Secure collateral. A clean phrase for, take the baler and leave. I stared at the words too long. Tessa noticed. Do it, she said. What? Take it. The flashlight beam dropped to the ground. Nora whispered. Tess. Tessa's voice stayed flat. He's right. You have a business. You have debt. Dale made this dirty, and I helped by not telling you everything. Take the machine before this cost you your shop. The old part of me wanted to accept, because I was tired, because I was scared, because I had spent half my life proving I was not my father while still carrying the same weakness in a different shirt. My thumb hovered over the reply. Then the baler clicked as cooling metal contracted in the night. A small sound, enough to bring me back to the thing in front of me. I put the phone in my pocket. No. Tessa's eyes sharpened. Clay, no, I said again. Not because I'm saving you. Because Dale wants me to turn his lie into my action. Her mouth closed. If I take it now, he tells everyone you panicked. I got jealous, and the farm failed because you let me in. Nora lowered the flashlight. Tessa swallowed hard. Then what do? I answer my lender with facts. I pulled out my phone and typed, collateral remains on site under written cure agreement. Delivery authority dispute caused by debtor's attorney, documenting all work, parts, and payment hold. Will secure collateral Friday, if no payment or legal release. It was not mercy. It was record. Tessa watched me send it. Then she opened the ledger to the clean page where she had written tell Clay first. Under it, she added, he did. By dawn, we had enough bales for a partial load. The stack was uneven. The straps were muddy, and every inch of it had been earned. Tessa could barely put weight on her ankle, so Nora drove the old pickup beside the trailer while I checked straps. The eastern sky turned pale. That was when Dale arrived. Not alone. He came in his brother's truck, with a man in a sport coat beside him, and Chuck Harlan following in his own pickup like a crow that had smelled corn. The man in the sport coat introduced himself as Dale's attorney. Dale cut him off. This load does not leave, he said. Tessa stood with one hand on the trailer rail, ankle stiff, ledger under her arm. The hay was cut under a written payment plan. Dale smiled. That copy you've been waving around? No one had said copy. Not that morning. Not in front of him. The attorney turned slightly toward Dale. I did not move. Tessa did. She opened the ledger, pulled out the original cure plan, then a photocopy Elaine had made at the bank, then a photo print Nora had brought from her office printer before dawn. 3 versions. Her voice was hoarse but steady. Which copy are you afraid of? Dale's smile arrived late, then left altogether. Chuck swallowed whatever comment he had brought. The attorney cleared his throat. Mr. Rourke, perhaps we should review the documents first. Dale's face reddened. She's making me look like a thief in my own yard. Tessa stepped closer to the trailer. No, she said. You did that when you tried to get paid for hay you didn't cut. The sun hit the yellow ledger, making it look brighter than anything else on that farm. Then Larkin's truck turned off the county road and rolled slowly toward the gate. Noon had not come yet, but the fight had. Larkin stopped at the gate. That told me he already knew the yard was not just a yard anymore. It was a room with no walls, and every person in it had arrived with a version of the truth. Dale stood near the trailer with his attorney beside him. Chuck stayed by his pickup. Nora stood near Tessa, close enough this time that no one could pretend she had not chosen a side. Tessa kept one hand on the trailer rail. Her ankle was swollen above her boot. The yellow ledger sat under her arm, mud-stained and bent at one corner. Larkin parked behind my truck and stepped out with a clipboard. I have until noon, he said. After that, I refuse the load and buy elsewhere. Dale spread his hands. That is why this needs to stop. My wife has been pushed into a reckless delivery by a creditor who benefits from confusing her. My mouth opened. Tessa lifted one hand, not to silence me, to keep the story where it belonged. I closed my mouth. Dale saw it and smiled. See, he knows he has no authority here. Tessa set the ledger on the trailer bed and opened it. My authority is in the work, she said. The attorney gave a polite cough. Mrs. Rourke, work does not override ownership. No, she said, but it does establish who performed under the payment agreement. She laid out the original plan, the bank copy, Larkin's buyer agreement, the printed routing email, and my work order, one page after another, held down by a roll of twine against the wind. Dale laughed once. A notebook and paper. That's all this is. No, Tessa said. This is what you counted on me being too embarrassed to show. Larkin stepped closer. The attorney did too. Chuck leaned from his truck, trying to see without admitting he cared. Dale softened his voice for the audience. Tess, you are making private pain public. I have tried to protect you from that. Her fingers stopped on the ledger page. There it was. Shame dressed as protection. For a second, I thought she might fold. Dale knew the doorway back into the person she used to be. Tessa touched the bent ledger corner. Then she looked at Larkin. Ask him which account he wanted the payment sent to. Dale's attorney turned. Mr. Rourke? Dale shrugged. An equipment account. For farm use. Tessa pulled the old bank receipt from the ledger. This cattle deposit went into the same account last month, she said. 2 hours later, it was transferred out. Dale's jaw moved. That covered repair exposure. Show the repair invoice. I do not carry every invoice in my pocket. That is why I asked the bank for the transfer history. The attorney's face tightened. Dale pointed at me. You keep ignoring the obvious. Clay Mercer has a financial motive. He has been here every day. He buys her parts, answers her calls, rides with her to the bank, and now he stands here pretending this is about hay. The old anger rose fast. I wanted to give the yard a sentence it could remember, but that would have been another kind of theft. Tessa's story did not need my voice over it. So I placed my work order on the trailer without a word. Hours, parts, fuel, terms. Written. Tessa glanced at it once, then faced Dale. You keep trying to make him the reason I stopped obeying you. Dale's smile twitched. I am the reason, she said. I stopped, because I finally wrote down what obedience was costing. Nora drew in a breath. Chuck looked away first. Dale's face reddened. You are humiliating yourself. No, Tessa said. I am identifying the bill. The line cut through the yard. Larkin lowered his clipboard. The attorney lifted one hand toward Dale. A silent warning. Dale ignored him. You signed the transfer form, he snapped. You signed it, Tessa. You gave me authority, and now you want to act like a victim because this man made you feel seen. The words hit hard enough that Nora flinched. Tessa's eyes moved to the form. The wind tugged one page loose. and I held it down with 2 fingers before it could slide away. I still did not speak. Tessa breathed once. "I signed it," she said. Dale seized on it. "There. I signed it because you told me it corrected a cattle payment. You misunderstood. Then show the cattle payment." He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Tessa stepped closer, limping but steady. "And I hid that from Clay for 3 days because I was ashamed. That part is mine." The yard changed around that sentence. Dale had built his defense on making her deny what was true. She did not. She put her own wrong thing on the table, and his favorite weapon lost its edge. Larkin turned to Dale. "Did you send me the revised routing instructions?" Dale's attorney said. "You do not have to answer that informally." Dale answered anyway. She was making a mess of the sale. "That is not an answer," Larkin said. Dale turned on him. "You want the hay or not? I want clean authority." "You had authority from me. The work agreement says payment to Clay Mercer first from this load under Mrs. Rourke's plan." Dale jabbed a finger at the trailer. "That plan is a copy." Again. That word. Copy. Tessa picked up the original and held it in front of him. "The original was in my desk. The copy was at the bank. Nora printed another before dawn. Which one were you planning to make disappear?" Dale's attorney said his name softly. "Too late." Dale looked at the ledger. Not with anger this time. With fear. "You went through my desk," he said. "My desk," Tessa answered. "The one with the feed bills I paid and the notices you hid." The attorney took Dale by the elbow. Dale shook him off. "She is my wife." Tessa's voice lowered. "Not your cover." No one moved. She turned to Larkin. "The hay on that trailer was cut under written terms. The bank can hold payment until Elaine clears authority. If you refuse the load, Dale gets exactly what he wanted. No money, no payment to Clay, and no proof I could finish the work." Larkin read the papers again. Then he walked to the trailer, cut one bale open, checked the hay with both hands, and smelled it. "Hay is dry enough," he said. Dale swore under his breath. The attorney closed his eyes. Larkin signed the inspection line. "I'll accept the load. Payment remains held until the bank clears authority." It was movement, not victory. But movement was more than Dale had wanted her to have. Dale stepped toward Tessa, all softness gone. "You think this makes you strong?" Tessa picked up the ledger and held it against her chest. "It makes me done explaining your damage is my mood." Nora started crying, quieter this time. Chuck got into his pickup without saying the joke he had come to say. Dale looked at me then, searching for a man to blame, because he could not survive the woman in front of him. I said the only thing that belonged to me. My debt is documented. Her work is documented. Your story is not. Dale's hand clenched. For a second, I thought he might swing. Instead, he grabbed the routing email from the trailer, crumpled it, and threw it into the mud. Everyone saw him do it. Tessa did not bend to pick it up. Nora did. She wiped the mud from the paper with the sleeve of her good blouse and handed it back. "I'll tell Elaine what I saw," Nora said. Tessa took the paper. The fight did not end with Dale apologizing. Men like Dale rarely gave that clean a gift. It ended with Larkin hooking the trailer to his truck, Dale's attorney speaking low and urgent, Chuck driving away too fast, and Tessa standing in the yard while the first load finally left. Dust rose behind the trailer. Tessa watched it go. She was not smiling. She was still hurt. But her work had finally moved farther than his lie. The first payment cleared 3 days later. Not the whole amount. Not even close. Just enough to keep my lender from sending a truck of his own, and enough to pay down the feed bill before Chuck could enjoy saying no again. Elaine Porter called Tessa first, then me. "The Larkin proceeds are being released according to the documented work agreement," she said. "The remaining transfer history is still under review." That meant the truth had won one door, not the house. Tessa did not celebrate when I told her the money had hit my account. She was standing by the machine shed with her ankle wrapped, one hand resting on the Baler panel, the yellow ledger tucked under her arm. "Good," she said. The word came out tired. Behind her, the north field lay cut and uneven, patched with damp places where the rain had taken what it wanted. The farm was still behind. The operating line still had questions around it. Dale's attorney had sent 2 more letters with softer language and the same threat underneath. But the first payment was real. The hay had moved. And Dale no longer had a clean way to say none of it had happened. He left the farm the following week. No dramatic goodbye. No slammed door. Men like Dale saved theater for rooms where it could serve them. He packed 2 duffel bags, a fishing cooler, and the framed photo of his father standing beside the old barn. Tessa watched from the porch. I was not there. She told me later. He said I'd call him before winter, she said. What did you say? I told him I'd call a plumber first. That made me laugh harder than the joke deserved. The legal part did not untangle quickly. Elaine froze disputed transfers. Tessa's attorney started using words like separation, asset review, and unauthorized diversion. Nora gave a written statement. Larkin confirmed the routing email. Chuck did not apologize, but he stopped saying things where I could hear them. I stayed away for 12 days after Dale left. Not because I wanted distance, because I did not trust closeness yet. Tessa and I talked by phone about parts, invoices, and county rates. I answered with measurements, prices, and one message I typed 3 different ways before sending. Keep the receipts. All of them. She replied, I am. Then, a minute later, even the ones that hurt. On the 13th morning, I drove through the Rourke gate without a flatbed behind me. No chains in the bed. No repossession contract on the passenger seat. Just my service truck, a printed work order, 2 coffees, and a small package wrapped in brown paper. Tessa met me near the same spot where she had once blocked me with the loader. The loader was parked by the barn now, bucket down, quiet and harmless in a way it had not been that first morning. Her hair was pulled back. Her sleeves were rolled. Her ankles still made her careful on the gravel. You brought paperwork, she said. Always. And coffee. That is not on the invoice. She took 1 cup and read the work order. I had written the rate clearly. Parts, labor, travel, payment terms. No favors hidden inside soft language. Her mouth curved a little. Full price? Discounted travel. Clay. Fine. Full price. She nodded, satisfied. That mattered more than thanks. I handed her the brown package. What is this? Open it. Inside was her yellow ledger. Same book. Same bent corners. Same mud mark that never fully came off. But the torn cover had been repaired with a strip of dark leather, stitched by an old saddle shop outside Canton. I had not cleaned the mud away. I had asked them not to. Tessa ran her thumb over the repaired spine. Then she opened it. The first page was still hers. The 30-day plan. The buyer names. The first payment circled twice. The words, tell Clay first, underlined so hard the paper still held the groove. I did not want to replace it, I said. That felt wrong. It is wrong, she said softly. To pretend the old thing never happened. A truck passed on the county road. Dust lifted beyond the fence. Tessa closed the ledger and held it against her ribs. This time, it did not look like armor. It looked like weight she had chosen to carry. Sometimes I still hear him, she said. I waited. When I write a number down. When someone asks me a question too quickly. When Nora pauses before answering. I hear him telling people I'm making a scene. The coffee warmed my hand. The morning moved around us, ordinary and sharp. You probably will for a while, I said. She nodded. I hate that. I know. The answer was too small to fix anything, which was why it was honest. She turned toward the machine shed. The baler needs the belt changed. Official job? She held up the work order. Official job. We walked side by side through the gate. We did not touch. We did not perform distance either. At the shed, she set the ledger on the workbench, not in the center, not hidden under bills, just beside the toolbox where it could be reached. I opened the baler panel. She handed me the right wrench before I asked for it. Some habits are scars. Some become language. Halfway through the repair, she wiped grease from her thumb with the same kind of shop rag I had given her the night she told me the truth. Clay. Yeah? Ask me tomorrow. My hand paused on the belt. It was not a confession yet. It was a door left unlocked without being pushed open. I tightened the belt and checked the tension twice. Tomorrow, I said. She smiled then. Not clean, not healed, not free of everything behind her, but real. The first time I came through that gate, I had chains in the bed and a contract on the seat. This time, I had a work order, 2 empty coffee cups, and her ledger open on the bench between us. It still held the old numbers. It still held the damage. But there was space on the next page. And when Tessa picked up her pen, no one in that yard told her what her own story meant. Some people do not destroy you by shouting. They do it by writing a version of you that everyone else can believe. And sometimes, the person who helps you survive is not the person who fixes your life. It is the person who finally stands close enough to say, No, that is not what happened. If this story stayed with you, tell me in the comments, have you ever had to fight for the truth of your own life? And if you want more stories like this, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.